moving. We have two panels coming up right now, and the first one is evolving blockchain ecosystems, the promise of rollups, application-specific chains, and connected contracts. It's going to be moderated by the host of the #1 podcast on Binance Live, Crypto OGs. Maybe you guys listen to it. And the panelists are Gleba, Alberto Viera, and Dina Bécane. So give them a round of applause while they get seated.
Hola, hola, hola. Right. Buenos dias. Good morning, guys. Thank you so much for Dina, Lucas, Alberto, and everybody here on the stage. I know it's, what day is today? Thursday morning? So we're just getting started, guys. So what an amazing topic. Let's start with the first thing first, introduction about who are you guys. Let's start with the lady. Who are you?
Thank you. Wow, I'm a bit nervous, so turn down your expectations a notch. But I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Dina. I work at Beamer as a growth marketing lead. And maybe to tell you a little bit about the story how I joined the space. So that was back then in 2017. Fun fact, it actually started here in Barcelona. And I just remember falling in love with the blockchain technology and all the concepts attached to it. Yeah, and fast forward 5 years, here I am and working on Beamer. And what Beamer is, basically really short introduction, it's currently a token bridge that aims at unifying the ecosystem seamlessly and in a very fast and secure way. We launched last year as a pure roll-up to roll-up bridge. And this year, we aimed at accompanying users from L1 to L2. So we enabled transfers also from and to Ethereum L1. And then we're not going to stop here, and we are looking to become an AMB, arbitrary messaging bridge, technical term, fancy term, to just say that we want to bridge more than tokens. We want to bridge data, any type of information between chains. And maybe 2 things to remember about Beamer. It's now the fastest bridge in the space, and for sure one of the most secure, if not the most secure bridge existing. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm Lucas. I work on this project called Connecte. Connecte is a framework for building application-specific chains on the OP stack. So the same way like frameworks like Flask or Django, you can use to make web apps, and they handle all of the complexity under the hood. You just like add your apps logic, and they do everything else. And Connecte is a similar thing, where you just like add your custom app-specific blockchain, app-specific logic for your blockchain, and then you get everything done for you. So we focus specifically on a section of the design space, which is EVM-compatible rollups. And this allows us to make things way simpler than other like blockchain SDKs, because instead of like making you put a bunch of modules together, we just like commit to being EVM-compatible, being on the OP stack as a rollup. And that actually makes things way simpler. So you just have your logic, you import some concrete stuff, call some functions, and you just like get yourself a blockchain.
Thank you.
Yeah, so my name is Alberto. I am originally from Venezuela, but I've been living in Spain for the past 9 years. I joined the blockchain space late 2013. Kind of like, you know, I was interested in Bitcoin. I actually try to run a node on my laptop just for fun. I mean, that doesn't really do anything. You know, I learned about Ethereum also early in 2015, but I've never actually did the jump on working on this space. I actually am a mechanical engineer. But no, I was always very interested from a tech perspective and so on. And after I was working here at Nissan in Barcelona, I was like, no, this is not for me. You know, I always tell the story that if my grandkids are going to ask me, what do you do? I was like, I work in combustion engines. And they're like, what's that? And you're like, this is not for me, right? So I actually managed to do the jump between like this old traditional industry to Web3 3 years ago. And right now I'm working on Moonbeam as developer relations. And Moonbeam is basically an L1 on Polkadot that provides a full Ethereum-compatible environment. It's also interconnected to all the major you know, EVM blockchains out there, and also Solana. So we have all the, let's say, bridges, or I mean, we probably should have Beamer bridge as well, hopefully in the near future, but we also have like Wormhole, Axelar, multi-chain, Hyperlane, and Layer 0. So the idea of Moonbeam is that you can build contracts that are actually, connected, and they're aware that other blockchains ecosystem exists. Not like right now, where each blockchain is its own like little world, little island, and they're not actually aware that there are other blockchains out there with communities, people, assets, and so on.
Thank you, everybody. So this is getting warm right now. Let's start with Lucas. Obviously, Lucas, you've been working with Connecte. As you mentioned, it's a development framework for building application-specific rollups on Ethereum. But can you share a little about this and how does it differ from other development frameworks in the blockchain space? What is the main difference?
Yeah, so there's other frameworks for making app chains, like there's Substrate in Polkadot, there's like the Cosmos SDK. As I was saying before, one of the main ways we're different is that, one, we are EVM compatible out of the box. So we just like think Ethereum is cool, and we just like commit to make everything compatible with all of the tooling that exists. And it's built on the OP stack. The OP stack is Optimism's development stack for the OP stack is Optimism's development stack for blockchains. So it's like open source, it's modular. So what we do is we just build on top of it. There's this thing, given that it's modular, it separates the execution engine from everything else. So what you do with Connecte is you just create a custom execution engine, and then you just reuse everything else. So as other people work on the OP stack, you benefit from that as well, without having to do anything. I think the question was, how does it differ? I think there's OP stack, EVM compatibility, and I guess also it's way simpler. With the other frameworks, you usually have some sort of command that you have to run, and then you get like a fairly large code base that's like a scaffold, and you have to like find out where everything is and like where you have to change stuff for your app-specific stuff. With Connecte, given that we are like committed to the OP stack and to EVM compatibility, the actual like surface of the interface that you have to take care of is way smaller. So it's way closer to like the way you develop is way more similar to like how you would make like a Flask web application than like a Cosmos chain. So yeah, I think that's the main three things.
Thank you so much, Lucas. So now we're going with Dina. Dina, you've been a growth marketing lead at Beamer. Probably this is a very good question only for you, for everybody that's in the industry. How do you handle the rapidly evolving blockchain industry to ensure the project visibility and relevance? How hard is to market a technical side like blockchain and layer 2, which many might not fully understand?
Okay, let's divide it into two parts.
Yeah,
let's focus on the first one first. So that it's about visibility in this rapidly evolving system. So how do we deal with that? We don't. No, joke. Joke aside, I think there's a couple of things when it comes to visibility. I mean, there are, traditional marketing tactics, initiatives that are working in Web3 just as they're working in Web2. We are talking about, PR, making a name, making yourself visible at events, influencer marketing, of course, content strategy is something very important. But beyond, let's say, the traditional marketing strategies, I think one of the key levers here is to make sure that we are interconnecting also the community. So when you build products, when you build projects, it's really important you get in touch with communities that can benefit from your product, and connect that bridge also on a community level. And how we, when it comes to relevance, I think the main secret here in a space that is evolving so fast is actually to ship fast. Whether it be different product versions or features, ship fast without necessarily compromising, of course, on the security level, and let people, try and test out your product. Let's see. And when it comes to the whole, the education on the technical side. I really think, I'm tempted as a marketer to say we shouldn't be marketing, we shouldn't be educating users, especially, I'm here addressing end users. We shouldn't be educating them, hand-holding them, explaining them how to interact on an infrastructure level or on a technical level. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this is not needed. It's very well needed in this space because we're not there yet. We are evolving into a direction where, the complexity is slowly abstracted. We see that with account abstraction coming up. And I think this is going to be an increasing topic. But yeah, in the meantime, we do have to educate people, and how we're doing that is, I guess, incentivized learning, right? So if we cannot manage to make the learning curve for end users shorter or easier, at least incentivizing them along their journey makes a difference. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important part, and I think something that is really underrated and that I believe AI will facilitate in that transition period is, this automated or, like hand-holding users when they're interacting with a product, right? So across channels, be it the application interface, the website, or whatever, having some sort of, maybe even an AI assistant, right, that is kind of like monitoring your interaction and making you aware about the risks, making you aware about like what are the actual steps on the user journey, and then leading you in the most efficient and secure way to your desired outcome as a user. Yeah, I think that's important.
Thank you, Dina. Now we're going with Alberto. So you've been 10 years in the space, and now you've been working at Moonbeam in the developer relationship, correct? How do you see the blockchain space evolving over the past years, and where do you see this is heading to? Like, what's coming next this year? Well, these 6 months.
Yeah, well, 6 months is a lot in this space, to be honest. But yeah, when I joined the space, there was only a few blockchains, if you think about it, right? There was Bitcoin, mainly Bitcoin, right? And then Ethereum changed the paradigm a little bit because it allowed to execute logic on-chain and then benefit from all the things that blockchain can provide you as a tech, but also add to that, having logic on-chain programs that can be sort of like executed at an on-chain level and then verified in a decentralized way. Then we started to see a lot of other things, right? Ethereum was not scalable, and then people tried to tackle the scalability problem, right? And that created many other blockchain ecosystems like BNB, Avalanche, Polygon, Polygon, Near, and so on. And then, people started thinking, yeah, but this is not really, feeding from the Ethereum security, right? And so now we have L2s, and that's like the hot place right now. Everyone is talking about L2s. And so there are different problems that have been trying to be solved along multiple years. But what it's clear, and Concrete is one example of that, and also, like Cosmos SDK and then Substrate, is that it is not the same building a blockchain back in 2013, 2015, 2017 that it is right now. With, for example, Substrate, which is the framework that I'm familiar with, you can build a blockchain in a matter of 10 minutes, and that's it. You have everything, so the underlying infrastructure, it's so easy now to get started with that it's just so easy to build blockchains. That's why we see now a big focus on like app-specific chains, right? If I want to build my own little blockchain where I can upload pictures of pets, I can do it. It's a technical thing, but I can do it in a matter of 1 hour. Right? Before it would just be like weeks, days, and a lot of money investments and so on. And so this natural shift of like, let's put everything into app chains, right, creates a need for these app chains to connect. And so that's why we have bridging being the hot thing as well, right? We have a lot of bridges, a lot of new bridges and so on, because now we're creating sort of like shards or like isolated islands for each of these applications, but they need to communicate with each other. If you go back to Web 2, right, beforehand you had to, if you were in the late 90s or early 2000s, you had to connect to the internet, right, by doing the dial-up. If your mom would pick up the phone, it's like, oh man, I got disconnected, and so on. It's like, that was all like poor UX. But right now, all of you use your phone to order a meal without even thinking about the internet, right? You don't think about it. And so I think blockchain technology is heading that way. But right now we're in the transition period where all the complexities are starting to be abstracted, like Dina said, in the way that end users don't really need to understand that they're using blockchain, but blockchain is powering all the things that they do, right? We're not there yet, to be honest. Still, UX is a major barrier. It's terrible when you have to start like, oh yeah, I'm on Ethereum, I'm going to go to Moonbeam, change my wallet, and so on, and connect. That's just poor UX. But think about, you know, how internet was it back then. It was bad. I mean, it was not great, and it has evolved into something that we don't think about. You know? And so I think this is going to become a thing. First, because it's really easy to build blockchains right now, thanks to SDKs like, you know, Substrate, Cosmos SDK, Concrete on the Optimism tech stack, but also because you have all these infrastructure that it's being laid out right now. And then the next step would be, I think, for the next 2 or 3 years, start abstracting the complexities of all the things that developers are building on right now, so that end users can interact with it without really understanding that they're doing that. So.
Thank you so much, Alberto. And now I have a quite interesting question for the three of you. You have to pick up one blockchain, only one. Which one will you choose and why? Let's start with Dina. Which one will you pick?
I'm going to be very traditional here. I think Ethereum, and I'm not thinking about, you know, Ethereum now.
Ethereum.
Yeah, but like as we're moving forward towards account abstraction and being like having Ethereum as an interconnected space, I mean, you know, it just makes sense. It just makes sense, and also the security is battle tested. So anything that inherits Ethereum security is also, you know, good. I would also use stuff that is built on Ethereum. So anything that has a, you know, Ethereum blockchain underlying.
So you're not saying this because we're in Ethereum Barcelona, right?
Maybe. No. no.
Lucas?
Yeah, I'll also have to say Ethereum. I think, yeah, I mean, people use Bitcoin, people use Ethereum, but for like many other blockchains, I think it's great that they exist because they like keep the tech moving forward. But as of right now, they're like kind of like incestuous in the sense that it just like, they're just like using the blockchain for blockchain related stuff, not for like things that actually matter in your life. Also, I think Ethereum is like lindy in the sense that it's been running for a long time, not as long as Bitcoin, but it also in a way like gets you things that you cannot have with Bitcoin. So I like both Bitcoin and Ethereum, but if you can only have one, I guess you'll go for the one that can do like everything Bitcoin can do and like more. Also, I'm saying this with like an asterisk, like I am including like all of the like Ethereum ecosystem. I mean, what's like the boundary of a blockchain, right? Actually, I mean, maybe you can come up with a boundary, but let's not do that and just like include all of the ecosystem. Like, okay, if I have to like stay with one, I'll say Ethereum, but I will be unhappy. If I have to like stay with like one ecosystem, I'll say like the Ethereum and I will be less unhappy. That's my answer.
And I'm going to continue on that, right? I mean, he made the point that I wanted to make answer in this question, right? It's like, it's impossible to think about one blockchain because it's like, let's say we all pick Ethereum, right? And then you pick Ethereum and then Ethereum it's just bust. Because like, are you going to pay like $1,000 to transfer money to someone? I mean, for me, the question is like one blockchain, which blockchain would you pick? And I was surprised you didn't say Optimism, but I understand. But it's more about, what do you need the blockchain for, right? I mean, if you're gonna pick Ethereum, it's probably because you're moving or you're interacting in a very high market cap. You're gonna do a low volume of transactions, and you're gonna be willing to pay transaction fees just because you're getting probably the most secure blockchain out there right now, right? But if you want to create, like I said, a blockchain for pictures of cats for whatever reason, a social network for cats, what are you going to do it on Ethereum? And so for me, right, I agree with Lucas, but like I do believe that the Ethereum tech stack is the best out there, and that's why Moonbeam is Ethereum compatible. But I don't think like the question is like which blockchain you will pick. It's like for what purpose are you going to use this blockchain for? And so I think, for example, a lot of people pick Solana because of the transaction speed, but then they've had issues. And so a lot of people pick Polkadot if you want to build like app-specific chains or chains that are very optimized for one thing only. And they want interoperability, right? And so I think picking one is not the right approach because, I mean, we're part of projects that believe in a multi-chain future. And so it's really hard to say pick one. I mean, so. Yeah.
That's what I asked that question.
You want to be controversial.
Yeah. So actually the next question, it has to be about what is what is lacking in right now in the industry, right? So for example, 3 months ago, I was in Dubai. I was talking with somebody from Venezuela, Maria Angel Garcia. You probably know her from BNB Chain. She's the community lead. And she was saying they are focusing, obviously, into bring more developers. The more developers they bring, the more solution they can give to the audience. Because probably sometimes the blockchains do focus too much in marketing and growth, but not in the developing side. So I will start that, but this is an open question for any of you. You can discuss between you. So in the blockchain space, what do you think we are lacking the most at the moment, and in terms of adoption and community side? You can discuss what we're lacking in
well,
blockchain.
it kind of sucks to use a blockchain, so that's a problem.
Yeah, I think from a developer perspective, I don't come from a computer science background, but when I started building apps on blockchains, it was great. I mean, you have this backend that it's so easy to interact with. At a testnet level, it's free, right? So you can play around with it, and it's so great. But the problem is that, and I agree with Lucas, that interacting with it from an end user perspective is not great. I've been in this space for a very long time and having to deal with keys, mnemonics, right? I mean, a lot of people that I've interacted with, they get hacked because they don't really understand what a mnemonic is, right? Or a private key is, and that you cannot share it. You cannot put it in your phone notes or whatever. And so there's a lot of abstraction that needs to be done so that, like I said before, using blockchain is just like using your phone to order a meal and so on, right? And so for me, the major, I agree with that statement that you said that bringing devs is important, because if you bring community, then what are the apps that they're going to use, right? So you have to do it both ways. I think Moonbeam being a developer-focused L1, the idea is that you bring developers so that they build applications so that users use those applications, right? And so, but yeah, to be fair, it's still if you're going to play a game in the blockchain, right? And then you say, oh, let me buy this shirt or whatever, and you need to wait 16 seconds until you get the shirt. That's bad UX, right? I'm going to go to the Web 2 world where I get just, click it, and less than a millisecond, I just have my shirt, even though I don't own it, right? But people don't really understand the sense of ownership yet. And so I feel that we need to understand that developers need to do a better job, or blockchains need to provide the right tools, like account extraction that Dina mentioned before, to have this toolkit so that they can create experiences. I think we always deal with interactions, but we're not thinking about experiences, right? I was talking with a game developer that he's doing a game in Web3, and it was like, yeah, dude, it's like if I'm doing a race in BNB chain and I want to do a race for Moonbeam, I mean, we are creating this experience where you're teleporting from one world to the other while you wait for the seconds for the blocks to happen, Instead of just being there a widget, it's just you have an animation that it's you're teleporting through a black hole, and then you're popping up into this other world that it's moving, and you're being, games load. It's the same, but you just have to create a good experience. So for me, that's user experience is so lacking at the point.
Dina?
Yeah, so user experience is obviously the biggest topic, but I also would stress out the security. So in general, if we want more adoption, protocols need to be more secure. And I think if we want adoption and going along with this whole user experience argument, we need also or protocols need to meet users halfway, right? I mean, yes, it's a completely trustless, permissionless system, and anyone can interact with anything mostly however they want. But if we want users to use a protocol and to feel safe using that protocol, I think that protocols also have this responsibility of, generating this safety or providing that safety to the users. And I think that's still very underestimated, and I think, when you look at centralized protocols, that's what they do well, and that's why they are so successful, right? And I say it every time, convenience will win over a full-fledged features, blah blah blah, over interacting with protocols in a different way. If you can manage to make your experience convenient, as in how many steps the user journey takes, but also how safe it is for you to interact with, then I think you'll definitely be winning.
So basically, users put more focus on user experience and make it easy for everybody, correct?
easier and safer.
And safer.
I agree with that. And also, but I mean, that's part of extracting that from the user, right? I mean, people don't really like, you know, use their credit card thinking about security. They already like think it's safe, right? And so I think that it's also part of it. And I think what Dina is saying is right, that you know, I think building this infrastructure right now, we're in a phase where it's like exploring how the infrastructure is going to be built, and you got to build it in a secure way. But part of abstracting the experience from the user is that they don't have to think about security because they think it's a given, right? Like I said, you know, I have my wallet here with my card, and I'm not thinking about, you know, oh boy, is it secure if I put it on this, like, you know, machine so to pay? You just do it, and that's it. You already think that it's secure, and so I think that abstraction as well comes hand in hand. So.
And now this question is obviously is quite similar, but I want to focus more in what Moonbeam, Concrete, and Beamer is doing. So what are some challenges that the layer 1, layer 2, and overall blockchain space is yet to overcome, and how Moonbeam, and how Beamer, and how Concrete is helping to overcome those challenges? Maybe we can start with you, Dina, with Beamer?
Yes, sure. So let me back up a little and explain, like, maybe a little bit contextualize where we're at. So, you know, as both Alberto and Luca said, it's becoming increasingly easier to kind of like spin up your L1 or L2. And what this means, and also like plus when it comes to Ethereum, we are moving towards, or we are already in this roll-up-centric ecosystem, right? So what it means is that we'll see more and more L1s, more and more L2s, or different chains emerging, and what it leads to is that we have like a siloed ecosystem, as Alberto also already mentioned, where you know, those ecosystems are performing well, secure, and everything within their own systems, and where the communication between each other is it's not there yet. We're getting there, but one, it's not super safe still, and two, it's very difficult. And on a bigger level, you know, what that means is that you have fragmented liquidity, so liquidity is not flowing easily from one ecosystem to another, and also like users, obviously. Users, again, the user experience is super long and complex. They need to bridge back to maybe an underlying chain to move funds from here to there, and, you know, probably half of it gets lost in the process. You know, if you do one wrong click or whatever, you know, it's risky. So given that situation, we do need bridges or connected contracts, like Alberto will mention, to kind of like bridge the gaps between those siloed ecosystems in a way that allows, you know, not only tokens. So right now Beamer, right, enables like token bridging from one chain to another, but also moving forward data and information in a fast, seamless, and secure way. And what that means from a user perspective, and even for businesses and marketers. So from a user perspective, you will be able to just stay on your application without necessarily knowing what happens in the background, on which chain things are happening, or which chain is communicating with which chain to kind of like extract the information that they need for the user. So this will all be abstracted away, and users will just be able to stay on the application, and not like now, kind of like opening a bridge, you know, and transferring funds, etc. So that's hopefully where we're heading. I believe it. And then also maybe touching quickly for marketers and business people, touching on that end. Again, like in this fragmented space, what it means is that also user identities are fragmented, right? So you have one product, an application, and several different representations of it living in several different places. And so does also the identity of the user, right? It's really hard to understand the big picture and the behavior of one user interacting across different chains with that one application. And it makes it hard not only to understand user behavior for marketers, but it also makes it hard for product owners or, you know, like protocol builders to understand the big picture of the product and to manage the product, right? There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of, you have to spin up a new product anew every time you want to deploy on a different chain. And I think that's really, that's an overhead that is unnecessary, and hopefully with tools like Beamer will help to reduce that and to finally have this one product and then, you know, like a whole connected to a whole interconnected ecosystem in the back.
Thank you. That sounds exactly. Thank you. Lucas, anything in concrete that you want to say?
Yeah, I think the question was, what challenges are there still to overcome, right?
And how concrete is helping.
Yes, there's like end user experience and there's developer experience. I think end user experience is really bad, but concrete isn't like doing that much about it really, other than like making it easier to like build chains at the like core level are like more user friendly because they incorporate some sort of like account abstraction feature of some sort. On the developer experience side, that's where concrete shines. I think, as Alberto was saying before, you kind of like, there's these things where you just like don't have to think about security. So ideally with concrete and with the OP stack, you will still have to think about security, but it will be like very confined. Like if your app-specific logic is secure, then like everything is secure. You don't have to worry about like your rollup being secure or like bootstrapping validators of some sort or like breaches and so on. So once we actually have like real rollups with like actual proving and so on, I think it will be very interesting that you can like actually just do that. You have like secure app-specific logic, you have a secure chain, and you don't have to worry about it. And then something very interesting that comes after that is the idea of having transactions that have atomicity between chains. So one way you can do that is with shared sequencing. So if you have two rollups, each of them is like separate execution, but you can still have the same sequencer building, like assembling the blocks for both of them, and you can like create constructions that give you certain like desirable properties, even though this is still like not very well like spec'd out yet, but I think it will be very interesting once it works. So these, if it works, it would also solve like problems such as like fragmented liquidity, where you can like, in a single transaction, you could, for example, get a flash loan from one chain and then use it from one rollup and use it in another rollup. So then like, once you do that, actually like having all of the liquidity like split up is like way less of a problem. So I think that will be very interesting. And perhaps finally, I think maybe we're still a bit far away from having like ZK proofs on the OP stack, even though it is in like in the experimental roadmap already. But I think once we get that, it will also be very nice because you'll have like almost instant finality on L1. So those are like the main things I'm looking forward to right now.
Thank you, Lucas. Alberto?
Yeah, so at Moonbeam, we do offer the developer like certain tools to sort of provide better user experience for end users. For example, on Moonbeam, any EVM call, any contract call can be gasless natively. Gasless means that the user doesn't really have to pay the transaction fees in the native token. And that's great because if you're, for example, in a game, I was explaining this example yesterday. So imagine you're playing a game. There's actually a game on Moonbeam called Damn Pirate Society. It's a pirates game. And so you have to send your ships on voyages so that they can loot and so on. But then you have this game token called doublons, but you have to pay the voyage in the native token of Moonbeam, which is Glimmer. And that provides bad UX, right? And so this precompiled contract allows the game to adapt this concept of being able to pay the voyage in doublons, which makes sense. It's a coin that has like pirate theme to it, right? But then, someone else pays actually for the transaction in the native token. And so that is a great tool that is very unique to Moonbeam. And, it can provide a really good user experience for example, gaming. But in Moonbeam, we understood, since a long time already that the future is going to be multi-chain. And so we are trying to make sure that people feel welcome when they want to build like multi-chain technology or cross-chain technology. Other ecosystems are actually against that. Like if you say, hey, I want to build what we call connected contracts, which is the idea of like, contracts that are aware of other blockchains and you can interact from other blockchains, they're against that because they want to be the tech stack or they want to be the blockchain. And so we don't think like that, and so we've offered all the possibilities so that people can create cross-chain experiences, right? We have, like I said, really big GMP protocols deployed to Moonbeam, but we're also going to have grants program and things that are focused on like cross-chain scenarios. And then we're part of Polkadot, which means that Polkadot provides services that are natively interoperable, meaning that if you, for example, deploy an application on Moonbeam, you can have automation built in natively on Moonbeam, right? That it's actually served by a different blockchain, but it's secured by Polkadot. And so, as for example, as a game, you could have, hey, I want to send my voyages every 2 weeks or so on automatically, so I don't have to log into the game and so on. And so that can provide a really good UX, because if you were just have like a little button in your game that it's like, hey, do you want to automate this? You click on it, sign your transaction, or if a account abstraction is there, something else happens, but then, you know, it's creating this like really great UX that's what we're aiming for. So, you know, just to summarize it, I think it's more, you know, providing really good tooling for developers. Moonbeam has them, so that they can build really good user experiences, and then focusing on this multi-chain future, because I think we're part of 3 projects that believe in that future, right? And so that, you know, people start developing things that are multi-chain aware or cross-chain aware. So,
thank you, Alberto. We're going to have one more question, and then we go for the audience question. This question is very simple. As you are, I haven't seen a very good-looking panel like today we have, but you are very also young guys. So, is somebody that is just getting into crypto, blockchain, or want to participate in Moonbeam, Concrete, or Beamer, is any advice that you want to give to somebody that's very young, that want to either go into developing side or marketing side? Like, what would you tell to you, the young Dina, for example, before joining to crypto or blockchain?
That there are no stupid questions. You should, and you know, keep asking questions and become an eternal student, because the space is evolving so fast. So learning is part of the journey, and you shouldn't be, anyone shouldn't be, you know, scared about it. And also, it's okay and normalize feeling overwhelmed, because it can be, with so many changes happening on so many different fronts. So yeah, and not, I think not being scared of like going for what you want, connect with the people that are working with interesting, with dApps that you want to work with or protocols that you want to work with, and learn from them. I mean, the space is pretty open, people are awesome, people are generous, so, and they're always super willing to share. So if you show interest, I think, yeah, people are generally very welcome, and you know, will provide that information or that education. So just go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah, so for me, there's a couple of things. One is you don't need anyone's permission. The internet's amazing. Just go there and like learn whatever you want to learn. And number 2, just like build something. Like, it's going to be like really bad. I think if you ask anyone who's like working on crypto, like you ask them what their like first project was, it was like almost certainly like some like stupid thing that didn't even work, or like that's the case for me at least. But it's still like, it doesn't matter. It just like keeps you moving forward. Once you like, at some point you'll realize it like doesn't actually work and it's like a bad idea, but you will still like already have like everything you've learned to that point. And I think that's way better than just like trying to learn everything first and like then decide what to do.
Yeah, so I agree with both sets. So I mean, like I said before, I come from a mechanical engineer background, and for me, you know, I dedicated 10 years of my professional career to studying that branch or that area, right? And for me, it was like, crap, should I do the jump? You know, should I like commit myself to crypto? And like, so for me, it was more having the willingness to do it than the knowledge, like Dina said. Because like I come from a space that the guy that knows the most about engines, you know, could have like 115 years of knowledge, right? Imagine he would be alive today. He had 115 years of like knowing this stuff. In Ethereum, for example, the guy that has like the most knowledge in the world, what, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years? Yeah. So it's just like this space is so young, and there's so much opportunities there. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher, if you're an architect, if you're a mechanical engineer, just saying, this is what I want to do, and then just focus on, you know, like Dina said, learning or like building stuff, right? When I started, I built an application that, for me, it was beautiful, but if I look at it right now, it's like, crap, that was bad. But it's just like the willingness of doing it, and just, there's so much content online free courses. If you're a developer like Austin Griffin, like Patrick Collins, they have so much good quality content that is completely free. So if you're not learning, it's just because you're not putting your effort on learning. It's like there's so much stuff. There's great podcasts, and so it's just more putting the effort and the time, I think, because just like the space is so exciting. Every time you wake up, you're like, I mean, it's not like, hey, yeah, let's go to work, but it's interesting, right? And so I just believe, like, I would just echo what they said. Just being able to just don't be afraid of asking stupid questions. Learn, and if you're a developer, just build stuff and experiment. So,
thank you, Alberto. And now we're going with a question from the audience. We have one so far. So, it's saying, what do you think about Chainlink CCIP initiatives that pretend to solve the bridging need? Anybody?
Yeah, I can start. That's fine. So this is just like another solution that echoes what we've been saying, that the future is multi-chain, right? I mean, CCIP is just another way that protocols can interact with each other. It might not be the only one. It might not be the one that lives forever. It's another solution that it's built by the Chainlink protocol, which is they've been around in the space for so long, and so the idea of CCIP is sort of like their own flavor of how blockchains are going to communicate, right? And as there are many blockchains having a lot of like cross-chain infrastructure, it's needed for the space to have redundancy, security, and so on, right? And so I don't think it's like the solution. It's just like a really other great solution or infrastructure for cross-chain, because I think they also believe that the future is multi-chain, right? So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think what's super interesting with CCIP is that it's an attempt to standardize how we do multi-chain in this siloed kind of like ecosystem. And I think that's great, because I think standardization of the space is needed. What good does it have to have like protocols that are acting very differently but still aiming to solve the same problem, reinventing the wheel every single time? I think that's not super efficient. So I think any attempt to standardize, being aware of each other's needs and where the space is heading, I think it's a cool initiative on top of everything that Alberto already said.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on top of that. That's very interesting. I'll just say it's great that people are like building stuff, but I don't think that, like, and they don't, I'm sure they don't claim it is, but it's not like it's not going to solve all your problems. So.
I mean, one thing that basically Chainlink is doing with CCIP is just like using their off-chain work and infrastructure that they have already, right, to create cross-chain experiences as well, right? So they're just like recycling a little bit of the work they've done with their Oracle solution just to provide, bridging. But at the end of the day, they believe, like I think all of us, that there's going to be multiple blockchains that they're going to need to be interconnected. So yeah, I can just wrap it with that.
Okay, guys, I think so. Most of us, including myself, we have learned a lot from you guys. Thank you so much for putting all the effort and energy to coming here this morning. Now, obviously, you have busy schedules, but congratulations for everything that you're doing, each of you in your companies and in the ecosystem. For people that are watching in the broadcasting, how we can find you guys on Twitter? I always ask this question. How we can find you, Dina, on Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, Twitter is the Google of the crypto space. So yes, on Twitter, Beamer Bridge all together. Yeah, we also have Discord. I mean, you will have a link tree on Twitter that will lead you wherever you want to go, to the application, to the Discord website, etc.
Yeah, just look me up on Twitter. It's Lucas Gleba. If you look at my name, like the title or something, you just put everything together and look it up.
Yeah, for Moonbeam, you can go to moonbeam.network. That's the website, and there you will find everything: Telegram, Discord, Twitter. We have different communities as well and different languages. If you want to join the Spanish-speaking community or the English-speaking community, and so on. Personally, in Twitter, I am THE Alberto V19 if you want to follow me. But yeah, I guess we also have a booth there if you want to come by and learn a little bit more about Moonbeam. We have T-shirts, stickers as well, so feel free to pass through our booth. So.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for everybody for having no breakfast just to come here. I'll see you around. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.